Aarav always believed love was built on trust. For years, he and Sara had lived what everyone around them called a perfect life. Friends envied them, relatives admired them, and neighbors often whispered, "That's what true love looks like." They had met in college. Two dreamers chasing their futures. Aarav, hard-working and ambitious, wanted to start his own business one day. Sara, bright and charming, dreamed of traveling the world. Together, they balanced each other out. Aarav's calm grounded Sara's energy, and Sara's laughter filled Aarav's quiet evenings with warmth. After graduation, Aarav worked day and night, building contacts, saving money, and sacrificing comforts. Sara stood by him, encouraging him whenever he felt tired. Their small rented apartment slowly transformed into a beautiful home. When Aarav finally bought their first car, Sara hugged him with tears in her eyes, whispering, "You make dreams come true." For everyone around them, their relationship was a story of love, dedication, and success. But perfection has a way of hiding cracks beneath the surface. It started small. Sara began coming home late, always with a ready excuse. "Extra work at the office," she would say with a tired smile. Aarav believed her, at first. He understood pressure at work, and he didn't want to sound insecure. But soon, the excuses multiplied. Meetings that lasted until midnight. Client dinners, where she didn't answer his calls. Weekend workshops that stretched into Sunday nights. Aarav noticed her laughter had changed. She no longer giggled at his silly jokes. The warmth in her eyes dimmed, replaced by distraction. When he reached for her hand, sometimes she pulled away without realizing. He tried to ignore it. He told himself, "It's just stress. She needs space." But deep inside, a seed of doubt had been planted. One evening, Aarav prepared dinner, waiting for Sara to return. When she finally walked in, her jacket carried a faint scent, masculine, sharp, unfamiliar. It wasn't her perfume. His heart sank, but his face remained calm. She smiled, kissed his cheek, and pretended nothing was wrong. Aarav kissed her forehead in return and said nothing. But that night, lying awake beside her, Aarav promised himself, "If she's hiding something, I'll find out. And when I do, my silence will speak louder than her lies." From that day, Aarav began watching closely. He noticed the way she guarded her phone, locking it instantly when he entered the room. The sudden bursts of laughter at messages she wouldn't explain. The way she dressed differently on days she claimed to be working late. He didn't confront her. He didn't demand answers. Instead, he observed. Their 5th anniversary was approaching. Aarav had planned a quiet dinner at their favorite rooftop restaurant. He bought her favorite flowers and even wrote a heartfelt letter. But when the day arrived, Sara called him late afternoon. "Sorry, Aarav. I can't make it tonight. There's a last-minute meeting." Aarav stayed silent for a moment. His chest tightened, but his voice was steady. "It's okay. Work comes first." He placed the flowers on the dinner table, lit the candles anyway, and ate alone. Hours later, Sara returned, claiming exhaustion. But Aarav noticed the faint smudge of lipstick on her collar, not her shade. He noticed the sparkle in her eyes, an energy he hadn't seen in months. She hadn't been working. She had been living another life. A week later, Sara left her phone unattended while showering. Aarav didn't want to invade her privacy, but his instincts pushed him. He opened her gallery. There were carefully hidden albums, locked behind passwords. He couldn't open those. But one image had slipped through. Sara smiling in a cafe, holding hands with a man Aarav had never seen. The picture wasn't romantic enough to scream betrayal, but the intimacy in her eyes told him everything. When Sara came out of the shower, Aarav was sipping tea, calm as ever. She had no idea her mask had cracked. Most people, upon discovering betrayal, explode. They demand answers. They shout, cry, or beg. Aarav did none of that. He hugged Sara when she came near. He asked about her day. He cooked dinner, made jokes, and even planned a weekend getaway. Sara began believing that he suspected nothing. But in reality, Aarav was building a silent wall inside him. Every smile, every kiss, every word he gave her was now part of a larger plan. He realized something important. Anger gives power to the betrayer. Silence takes it away. Asterisk asterisk. One night, Aarav followed her discreetly. Sara had claimed she was working late, but Aarav's instincts told him otherwise. He parked a block away from her office and waited. At 8:15 p.m., Sara walked out. Not towards her car, not towards home. She entered a nearby restaurant, where the same man from the photo was waiting. They hugged. They laughed. They shared dinner like lovers. Aarav watched from a distance, his face expressionless. Inside, his heart bled, but his silence remained intact. He didn't confront them. He didn't create a scene. Instead, he quietly drove home, sat at his desk, and began writing in a journal. Page after page, he documented every detail. Dates, times, excuses, locations. If she thought I was blind, he wrote, she has no idea how clearly I see. When Sara returned home past midnight, Aarav was reading a book. She kissed him on the cheek, and he smiled back. But as she drifted to sleep, Aarav whispered silently to himself, "You've already chosen your path, Sara. And I've chosen mine. You won't hear me scream, you won't see me fight. But one day, you'll wake up and realize I took everything back, without saying a word." Sara turned in her sleep, unaware of the storm quietly forming beside her. The perfect illusion of their life had shattered. And Aarav's silent revenge had just begun. Aarav had always believed silence was strength. Now, it became his greatest weapon. Sara thought she was clever, hiding messages behind passwords, inventing late-night meetings, and covering her lies with fake smiles. What she didn't know was that Aarav had stopped being her blind lover. He had become her quiet shadow. Aarav started small. He bought a second phone, one Sara didn't know about. With it, he installed apps to record calls discreetly and track patterns. He never touched her phone again. He didn't need to. Instead, he observed. Whenever Sara left home claiming to be busy at work, Aarav would follow at a safe distance. He discovered the man's name, Rohit Malhotra, a mid-level manager at Sara's company. Rohit was charming, smooth-talking, and reckless enough to believe he could steal another man's world without consequence. Aarav watched them share coffees, dinners, stolen glances. He photographed everything. Dates, timestamps, addresses, all saved in neat folders. The more he saw, the colder he became. He stopped thinking of Sara as his wife. She had become a stranger, a thief wearing the mask of love. At home, Aarav played his role perfectly. He laughed when Sara laughed. He cooked her favorite dishes. He even suggested weekend trips, knowing she'd refuse with another excuse. One evening, Sara returned home late. Aarav greeted her with a warm smile. "Tough day?" he asked. She sighed dramatically. "You have no idea. My boss is impossible." Aarav kissed her forehead. "Then you deserve some rest." Sara smiled, relieved. She still believed in the illusion that Aarav was the same loving, trusting husband. But deep inside, Aarav's heart had turned to ice. Aarav decided to test her loyalty. On Sara's birthday, he pretended to leave town for a business trip. "I'm sorry," he said, kissing her goodbye. "I'll make it up to you when I return." Sara forced a smile, acting disappointed. But as soon as Aarav's car left, her expression changed. Within an hour, she dressed up, applied her favorite lipstick, the one she never wore for Aarav anymore, and left. Aarav, of course, hadn't gone anywhere. He followed her. That evening, Sara celebrated her birthday with Rohit at a luxury restaurant, laughing freely, cutting a cake he had bought for her. Aarav recorded the entire evening, each photo sharper than the last. When Sara returned home late at night, Aarav was already in bed, pretending to be asleep. She kissed his cheek lightly, whispering, "Good night." Aarav didn't move. He didn't reply. His silence was louder than any confrontation. The more Aarav pretended to know nothing, the bolder Sara became. She stopped making excuses altogether, sometimes claiming urgent office work and leaving in bright dresses. She underestimated Aarav's calm. But Aarav wasn't rushing. Revenge, he knew, was best served cold. He began shifting money from their joint account into a private one Sara couldn't access. He quietly changed property documents, moving ownership from their shared names into his own. Every step was calculated, every move invisible. Sara was building castles in the air with Rohit. She had no idea the ground beneath her feet was already being pulled away. One night, Aarav decided to step closer into the fire. He went to the same restaurant where Sara often met Rohit. Sitting in a corner table, hidden by shadows, he watched them laugh together. For a moment, his chest tightened. Memories of Sara's laughter with him resurfaced. The nights they had dreamed together, the mornings they had woken up smiling, it all flashed before him. But then, watching her hand rest comfortably on Rohit's, he reminded himself, that woman no longer exists. This is someone else wearing her face. When Sara excused herself to the restroom, Aarav stood up and walked toward Rohit. He didn't confront him with anger, only with silence. Rohit looked up, startled, but Aarav simply smiled, placed a business card on the table, and walked away. On the card, in neat handwriting, were only 2 words. I know. The next morning, Sara behaved strangely. She kept glancing at Aarav, as if searching for something in his eyes. Aarav remained calm, sipping tea, reading the newspaper. But Sara's instincts had stirred. Did he know? Could he have seen something? She didn't dare ask. Instead, she played her role more carefully for the next few days, cooking dinner, laughing at his jokes, holding his hand. Aarav played along. Inside, he smiled. Fear was the first crack in her armor. Weeks turned into months. Aarav's evidence folder grew thicker. Bank statements showed Sara secretly transferring money to Rohit. Messages revealed their plans of starting a new life together. Photos captured their weekend getaways. Piece by piece, Aarav built a perfect case. He didn't just want to expose Sara, he wanted to dismantle her entire illusion of power. And the best part? She still believed she was fooling him. One night, as Sara slept beside him, Aarav looked at her face. Once, he had seen love there. Now, all he saw was betrayal painted with lies. He whispered softly, so only he could hear. Keep playing your game, Sara. Keep lying, keep smiling. When the time comes, you'll lose everything. Not with shouting. Not with anger. But with silence. And proof. Sara turned in her sleep, unaware of the storm brewing inches away. The gathering storm was almost ready. And when it finally struck, Sara's world would never be the same. For months, Aarav had worn the mask of a loving husband, hiding the storm inside. Now the storm was ready to break. Sara still believed she was in control, her lies flawless, her secrets safe. But what she didn't know was that every step she took had already been recorded, every smile with Rohit captured, every transaction traced. And now, Aarav would strike. It began with the finances. One morning, Sara tried to withdraw money from their joint account. The ATM screen flashed. Insufficient balance. Confused, she tried again. Same message. That evening, she confronted Aarav. There's something wrong with the bank. Our money isn't showing. Aarav calmly stirred his tea. Really? Must be a glitch. I'll look into it. But in truth, he had already moved everything. Their savings, investments, even the house, all were now in his name. Sara had no clue. For the first time, she felt a tremor of fear. Meanwhile, Rohit received an envelope at his office. Inside were photographs, him and Sara together at hotels, restaurants, late-night drives. No note. No sender. Just evidence. He froze. If these reached his company, his career would end. That night, when he met Sara, he was restless. Someone knows, he whispered. Someone is watching us. Sara laughed nervously. You're imagining things. But deep inside, her unease grew. Aarav's next move was subtle but deadly. At a family gathering, Sara's cousins whispered among themselves. A distant aunt asked casually, "Sara, you've been so busy these days. Late nights at the office, huh?" Sara froze. She hadn't told them that. But clearly someone had. Aarav, standing nearby, smiled politely but said nothing. His silence was sharper than any accusation. Confrontation with Rohit. Rohit couldn't take it anymore. He confronted Aarav one evening outside their apartment. "Listen," Rohit stammered. "I don't know what you think you know, but stay out of this. Sara loves me." Aarav looked at him with calm, cold eyes. "I don't think I know." He handed Rohit a small USB drive and walked away. Inside the drive were recordings, phone calls, messages, photos. Enough to destroy Rohit's job, reputation, and family ties. The next day, Rohit stopped answering Sara's calls. When Sara realized Rohit had disappeared, panic consumed her. She tried contacting him for days, but there was only silence. No replies, no explanations. One night, she finally broke down. "Aarav," she cried, "everything is falling apart. I don't understand." Aarav watched her tears, his face unreadable. "Don't worry," he said softly. "It will all be over soon." Sara clung to him, desperate, believing for a moment that maybe her husband still cared. But Aarav's heart was ice. Aarav had one last move left. He compiled everything: photos, bank transfers, hotel receipts, call recordings, and sent them anonymously to Sara's parents. Within hours, her family called, shocked, devastated. Her father's voice trembled on the phone. "Sara, how could you betray your husband like this?" Sara's world shattered. That night, when she returned home, she found Aarav packing a suitcase. "Where are you going?" she asked, voice shaking. Aarav looked at her with calm finality. "I stayed silent because I wanted you to destroy yourself. And you did." He walked past her without another word, leaving her in the house that was no longer hers. Sara collapsed to the floor, sobbing. She had lost Rohit, her money, her family, and now Aarav. And the cruelest part? Aarav never raised his voice. Not once. His silence had been her loudest punishment. The night Aarav left, the apartment became silent. Too silent. 4 years, Sara had taken that silence for granted. But now, it screamed at her. Every room echoed with the weight of her choices. She tried calling Rohit. His number was blocked. She tried visiting his office, but the guard at the gate stopped her. "Sir doesn't want to see you," he said coldly. At home, her parents refused to take her calls. Even her closest friends stopped replying. The world that once admired her now turned away in disgust. And Aarav? He had vanished like a shadow. While Sara's life crumbled, Aarav built something new. He shifted into a smaller, quieter house. It wasn't luxurious, but it was his, clean, peaceful, untouched by lies. He focused on his work, taking on new projects, earning with doubled energy. Colleagues noticed the change. "You seem calmer these days," one remarked. Aarav only smiled. Inside he wasn't calm, he was free. Weeks turned into months. Sara sold her jewelry to survive. The apartment, once full of laughter, now felt like a cage. Everywhere she went, whispers followed. People who once praised her beauty now looked at her with pity, or worse, disgust. At night, she would stare at old photos of her and Aarav. His smile, his kindness, his love. She would whisper into the dark, *, "Why did I do this? Why wasn't he enough?" *. But silence answered her, the same silence that Aarav had once carried like a weapon. One evening, fate intervened. Sara saw Aarav at a cafe. He was sitting with colleagues, laughing softly, his eyes brighter than she remembered. She froze, watching him from a distance. When he noticed her, his expression didn't change. No anger, no sorrow, just calm indifference. Gathering courage, she approached. "Aarav," she whispered. "Can we talk?" He looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, "There's nothing left to say." Tears filled her eyes. "I've lost everything. My family, my dignity. Even Rohit left me. Please, just once, tell me why you didn't fight me, why you didn't scream." Aarav's voice was steady. "Because screaming gives importance. Silence takes it away. I wanted you to feel the weight of what you'd done, without me having to lift a finger." And with that, he walked away. Months later, Sara received an envelope. No sender name. Inside was a single note, in Aarav's handwriting. Silence was never weakness. It was patience. And patience gave me everything, while it took everything from you. Her hands trembled as she read the words. Tears blurred the ink. She knew it was the last time she'd ever hear from him. Aarav never looked back. His life wasn't perfect, but it was his own. He traveled, met new people, and rebuilt his happiness piece by piece. Sara, on the other hand, carried her punishment every day, not from Aarav's hands, but from her own choices. And so, the story ended not with noise, not with rage, but with silence. Because sometimes, silence isn't empty. It's full of answers.